Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Digital Jamaica Live. I'm your host, Katia Francis, and it's really good to be here with you guys this morning, whether you're listening on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, or if you're listening to this later on the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, today, following up from my rant about quitting entrepreneurship last week, and me talking to you guys about Nevine, my accountant, the accountant who literally saved our asses from a lot of tax problems. You guys were so interested in that, and a lot of you messaged me one away to say I need this woman's number. Well, she's here with me this morning, and we're going to talk about some of the important things that we had to learn as entrepreneurs. And it was baptism by fire, let me tell you. But after an initial bad experience with an accountant, then we were somebody recommended Nevine. I forgot who it was recommending Nevine, and it was a long process, but we were able to kind of figure out. Well, she figured it out. We just did what she told us to do. She kind of helped us figure our way out of it. So I wanted to share her expertise with you this morning. So we're talking about profit and loss, which is a common accounting term. What exactly does that mean as an entrepreneur, specifically as it relates to cash flow, assets, and taxes? And so let's jump right into it with Nevine. Hi Nevine, welcome.
Hi, Kadia. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. Good morning. No, guys, Nevine is not 100%, but she still jumped on this morning, and I really appreciate it, Nevine. So before we jump in, Nevine, can we talk a little bit about you as an accountant? And I know you're not just an ordinary accountant. We spoke about that this morning, but Nevine also have knowledge of financial management. And that's also important because that can be a big asset to a client. So Nevine, let's talk a little bit about you as an accountant. How did you get into accounting, and how do you help your clients with that?
Well, I've always been good with figures. Ever since I was a little girl, I'm going to age myself a little bit by saying, I used to just watch my sister dial her World Talk card, and then I know the numbers, and I'm able to call anybody I want to call. But I did the sciences in school actually, in high school. So accounting happened to me after leaving high school. From humble beginnings, I would have to work to send myself to college, and I got a job at a gas station as an admin assistant. And I think the owner saw in me what I was yet to see in myself, because after a couple of months, the only thing he did was come in to sign checks.
Right.
I was basically running the place. And then I realized that, maybe this is something I can capitalize on. And I went to school and, get the formal studies. I did not just do accounting though, as you mentioned, I did accounting and finance. I always tell people that sometimes I think accounting is post-mortem activities. It's after the fact.
Yeah.
I like having knowledge to help people while they're in operation, while they're on the ground and doing stuff that
Yeah.
would make a difference to their bottom line at the end of the day. So
Right. So you have that dual knowledge,
I do.
and having that dual knowledge can really help a client, because as you said, you're not just helping them after the fact, you're helping them manage throughout. So when it gets to the tax time, when the accounting come in, they didn't find themselves in the same position we found ourselves in. We were like, we have no idea what the hell is happening. Why are we losing so? Why are we paying so many taxes? All right, so let's jump into it. I always have a presentation, Nevine, because I
That's
think
nice.
it's a useful teaching tool. So, guys, we're gonna start with some definitions because it's important for us to understand, and these are things that you would have probably heard before, but having an expert explain it to you in like layman's terms so we understand what these things are. So the first definition, Nevine, is what is meant by capital, because when we started, I don't think we understood we just thought, well, we need to have a little money so we can do a little thing and start a little thing, but it's a little bit more involved than that, right?
Right, it is. So your capital, I think capital is one of the most misunderstood terms in accounting.
Right.
It because it really refers to the financial resources that the business has that they will use to fund their operation. In a nutshell, that's what it is. Be it a loan you get from the bank to buy property, plant, and equipment, or the property, plant, and equipment itself. It really is anything used to drive the business. That is your capital.
Right.
But you have different types of capital. So usually when you say capital, people think about your startup capital, right? What you start with. But it doesn't end there. Yes, you have an initial investment. So that is more along the line of your equity or risk capital, where the owners decide that I have an idea and I am willing to take on the risk of investing some money to see this idea come to fruition. But you have your working capital as well, where you're in operation now, and this is the amount of money that you have um, to run the business
Yeah.
technically. So it is a net of your current assets and your current liability. So there are different types of capital.
Of capital, right? So it's not just one thing. It's not just some money to start your business, because then there's starting and there's operating your business, and some of that goes into the operational cost of your business. Okay, got that. Okay, and the next one is assets. What are assets?
So your asset now is anything that the organization essentially controls or own, that they can see a future economic benefit from. So your property, plant, and equipment is also an asset. Your receivables is an asset. Your money you have in the bank is an asset. Um, there are several different classes that primarily they are usually separated in current and non-current asset. The current asset usually you can liquidate within 12 months. So it readily turns into cash. But
Right.
anything that will take a little bit more time to turn into cash, then it's classified as non-current asset.
Right. So these are things that I can either sell or in other ways, some other ways dispose of to gain the cash
To
value
gain
from it.
cash, right? So
Okay.
you own or control it. So there's some future economic benefit that will come for it. For example, your receivables as an asset. At some point,
What
you
are
can,
receivables?
receivables is money your clients owe you.
Okay, so the money they owe me is an
It's an
asset.
asset
Okay,
because
me
at
have
some
one
point you're
asset
going to
out the
collect.
road, Nevine, when me care.
At some point,
Right.
you want to collect that money. I
Right.
mean, your receivables can also turn into bad debt or an uncollectible debt.
Right.
Um, but at the face of it, you plan to collect that money, so it is an asset to you.
So it's not just, oh well, like for me, like in our instance, in one of our assets would be the equipment we use, so the lighting, the microphone, the computer, all the other, the tools that we needed to be able to do the courses and have workshops and stuff. That would be part of our assets. But you're also saying your assets involves the money in your bank account, your assets involve the money out the road where you can't collect, and all these other things are under the umbrella of your business assets.
It is.
Okay.
So what you speak about with the microphone and equipment is usually classified as fixed asset, which falls under your non-current asset.
Okay.
Because those, as you say, you probably will have to put out an ad to say, I have these equipments for sale for whatever reason, in order to turn those into cash.
Right.
It will take more time. So those are considered your fixed asset. But anything that you own that will give you some economic benefit in the future is an asset to you.
It's
So
an
if
asset.
you pay your insurance, for example, if you insure your company and you pay your insurance for a future period, the period that has not come yet is an asset to you. Because if
Okay. Because
you
it's a
should,
future benefit.
right, because if you should cancel that insurance, some money coming back to you. right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you have not exhausted the cost. So it's called a prepayment. So your prepayment is an asset to you too. So there are several
Okay.
different types of asset, but generally when people hear asset, the first thing that comes to mind is your building and the equipment,
Yeah.
furniture
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But those are not the only classes of assets.
Okay, so you have the fixed assets. These are the things that you can't necessarily readily get rid of,
Mhm.
like your tools and stuff. And then you have the non-current assets and the current assets. So it's a more expansive view as to,
It is.
so insurance is an asset, your money that you have yet to receive, like
Your
invoices that
insurance
are out,
prepaid is an
your
asset.
prepaid is an asset,
Right.
right? Money in your account and all of that stuff is an asset. Okay, good. What is meant by cash flow? That one was that one got us in the balls, guys. What is meant by cash flow, Nevine?
All right. So I always say to people that sometimes cash flow is a whole lot more important than your
And we're
profitability.
gonna talk about that later on. Yeah.
Your cash flow is how the business flows, the money flows in and out of your business.
Right.
That's basically what it is. So you collect, how you spend. That is your
Mhm.
cash flow.
Right.
The reason why people make reference to cash flow so much is because cash flow is not always reflecting of your earning, because you can earn money like you who have it on the road and cannot collect it and you don't collect it. No, if you don't collect it, it don't form a part of your cash flow really, because
Right.
it never come in. So
Yeah.
it's really about how money flow in and out of the business. That's your cash flow.
What got us, Nevine, what got me is that we were seeing, like, when you came in and you did the accounting and you're like, oh, you guys made $8 million this year. We're like, where? Where we make $8 million? Nevine first said we can't. We don't see it. We don't see it. So is that a part of cash flow? Because sometimes as an entrepreneur, when you start making money, the money comes in, and when the accountant goes in and they do the numbers, it's a nice round figure, but in the day to day you don't really see that money. Why does that happen?
Because some of that money is uncollected. And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't collect it, you're not going to see it. And two, your gross earnings and your net profit is two different things.
Oh
So your
Lord.
gross, you can make a gross earning of $10 million and your net profit is minus $25 million because you spend more than what you earn. Um, so your gross profit and your net earnings are two different things. So your accountant saying to you, you made $8 million. It doesn't mean that you have $8 million.
8 million.
It means that
Ah,
you had a gross sale of $8 million.
right.
Your accountant is probably trying to point out to you your potential in terms of performance. So if it is that you have a gross earning that looks nice and your net profit is not so nice, or the money in the bank is not so nice, then one, you probably need to focus on trying to get those money in terms of collection.
Mhm.
And two, you probably need to look at your operating costs and see how you can tighten up that so that some of that money
Right.
stays with you.
Stays with you, because we you're talking about, especially for creators like us, right? Creative entrepreneurs. If like me, one of the tools that you use is like the internet or subscriptions to different platforms, for some reason we didn't factor that into costs, so that money was coming out. So we had about 10 subscriptions at one point to different tools that we used online, and that was coming out. And then of course you had to pay yourself, because that's
Right,
one thing, you have to pay yourself, so there's that. Then you have to pay your service providers, there's that. Then there's the collection process, trying to collect money. At one point we had a location where you were paying for that, so different things were coming out of that money and reducing the amount of earnings, I guess, that you had.
right.
So you're looking at what was made in the entire year, but then from that you have to deduct every
Every
expense,
expense,
every
yes.
single expense. And sometimes, guys, you don't realize how much expense is coming out of your business until the accountant goes, okay, well, this, that, and you're like, when did that happen? Yeah, that hit us like a wrecking ball in the face. Okay, so this is not supposed to be personal income tax. This is supposed to be profit and loss. I don't know what I was thinking. So, Nevi, what do we actually mean by profit and loss? I know it's some kind of statement, but what is that statement about and why is it important?
So the profit and loss is also referred to as your income statement. You basically just described your statement, your income statement. It really is all of your earnings minus all of your expenses. That
Right.
is in its
So
entirety.
how much profit we made and the losses, the expenses?
No. So at the end of the day, what the net of that is, it it is either a profit or a loss. So when you have your
Oh,
all of your income, all of your expenses minus, you are going to end up with either a profit or a loss
either more money or less money.
or less money. That is it.
Okay, okay. But since we're here,
Right?
as entrepreneurs, do we pay personal income tax?
Yes. All right. So if you have a limited liability company, it is
Right,
kind of different. You are going to pay yourself on a payroll and pay over payroll taxes. So you're still
right.
going to pay personal income tax. But as a sole trader, then you will have to file your SO4 return every year to pay all of the statutory types: income, ed tax, NIS, NHT. So
Mhm.
yes, as an entrepreneur, everybody who earns in the country is supposed to pay taxes.
Personal income tax. Okay. But then for businesses, limited liability companies, that how that is calculated is different than for sole traders, is what you're saying?
Limited liability company don't necessarily pay. It's not called personal income tax; it's called corporate tax.
Corporate tax.
Yes.
You know what was interesting, Nevine, the difference between, and this is interesting, this is important, guys, when you are registering your business, because as much as I complained last week about not really seeing the benefits of formalizing your business, I still would recommend that you formalize your business because you don't really want government to run in by certain ways. You know what I mean? Because that would be messy. So when you're registering your business at the company's office, you need to be careful how you register your business, right, Naveen? Because we registered as a partnership initially, and
Right.
then switch over to a company, and it caused a lot of mess in between the partnership and the switching over. So what is it, what is how is the tax thing calculated when it comes to partnerships? Because I know when partnerships it's now individual calculations.
So with the partnership, you're going to do your income statement, your P&L, just the same. But depending on how the partnership agreement is in terms of the apportionment of profit or loss,
Right.
then that portion that belongs to one X partner and the portion that belongs to Y partner is taken over to that partner's portal and filed in their SO4 return for them to pay taxes. So technically, a partnership does not pay taxes. A partnership has a filing obligation every year. So
Right.
you have to file your ITO one every year. I think it's one. If it's not one, it's three.
What is the ITU?
It's a annual declaration of income and taxes, right? So you have to file that, and on that form, it tells you to break out what belongs to who in terms of the partnership.
Right.
No taxes will be calculated on that form, but you have to file. So I know of persons who have partnership. I've even had clients who they have partnership and did not know that they need to file a partnership return. They filed the individual
Your
return,
returns, right.
but not the partnership return. There's a partnership return that needs to be filed, and if you file it late, it's $40,000 for the late, and interest goes on that for $40,000 as you go.
Yeah.
So there is a filing obligation, but there's the partnership itself doesn't pay taxes. The partners pay taxes. So
Pay
when you
taxes.
take over your portion of profit or loss, then the necessary calculations happen on your portion.
Right. So you have to be careful how you register when you go to register, because then also another thing you need to pay attention to is tax periods, because that got me a lot, Nevi. There was a lot of back and forth between me and Nevi. He's like, Nevi, but we didn't do anything, and she's like, it's the tax period. Okay, so their periods within which taxes are calculated per year, right?
So all right, if you register a business in July,
Mhm.
You can opt to keep a financial year of July to June. That would be 12 months. So your year cuts off at June. Your filing obligation for that June period will become outstanding for March of the next year. You can, however, dictate or change your accounting period. Let me not say you can change. So you can opt to file the June to December and then keep a January to December financial year. A lot of people like to keep it clean with the calendar year because a lot of people get confused when it cuts off in the year. But generally, your accounting period starts when you start trading and end 12 months thereafter.
Okay.
Right.
All right then. So like guys, let's move into the juicy stuff. The stuff that caused me sleepless nights and headaches and messaging Nevine at some wicked hours of the night. So let's talk about taxes, because what I learned is that there are some taxes. This is why I said last week that one of the biggest investments and one of the most important investments you can make as an entrepreneur is in an accountant. Because I don't care how smart you are, this tax thing, if you really don't like know it can really trip you up and you can really put yourself in problems. So let's talk about deductibles. Nevine, in terms of as a small business, say for instance, I have a little store, an online store. I have a little e-commerce shop. I make beauty products or whatever. I sell beauty products, and a part of that, I need maybe the equipment for make the soap, or the thing to mix the ingredients, whatever the equipment and tools are that I need. What I want to know is, can I then deduct that? Can that then be deducted from my overall expenses to reduce it so I pay less tax? Because my thing is always paying less tax. So what
That's
are some
everybody's thing.
right? So what are some of the things as an entrepreneur that I can deduct or subtract from gross income so I can reduce it to pay less tax?
All right, so let me start with your comment about the equipment.
Right.
Your equipment is a fixed asset. It does not affect your profit any at all. Um, so it goes to your balance sheet. It's from one balance sheet to the next. So you have the money in your bank account, which is a balance sheet account, and you're paying for an asset, which is also a balance sheet account, right? So it moves out of the bank into fixed asset. However, there is what is called capital allowances that you can claim on that fixed asset. Um, the tax office has a schedule in terms of what their write-off period is for each asset type. So you have a write-off period for equipment, motor vehicle, for buildings. Depending on the fixed asset type, you can write off. So you don't get the benefit of the full cost in any year, but you will get the benefit of the full cost eventually because you write off over a period of time.
Nevine, I don't understand what any of that just mean.
All right. So you buy a motor vehicle for $100. You get to deduct $12.50 every year. It goes towards reducing your taxes. So that is
So,
called,
so I don't get the full write off in
you don't
any
get the
one
full
year, but it's
write-off
over.
over a period of
Ah,
time. And it's
okay,
called
okay, okay.
capital
So
allowance.
this year they did just a portion over a
Right,
period of time.
right.
Okay.
However, if the company owns that motor vehicle and you do some repairs on that motor vehicle, you buy gas and put in the motor vehicle because the motor vehicle is used within operations, say for a delivery or whatnot.
Right.
Those are business expenses and go towards deducting.
Okay.
Right.
So the motor vehicle and maybe the machine that you use to mix up or
And
whatever,
you
these
can
are
only
fixed
claim
assets.
sorry, you can only claim capital allowance too if the company owns the asset.
Okay, so if you are a limited liability company
Mm-hmm.
and you own an asset, like a fixed asset, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a car or a vehicle that you use for delivery, or equipment that you use to make whatever, or tools or whatever, you're saying that you don't get all of the deductible one time, but over a period of
over a
time.
period of time.
But what you can deduct all the time are the accompanying expenses.
Right.
So
The
to repair the
repairs,
machine,
the
repair the
maintenance.
vehicle, gas it up. What if the vehicle was my personal vehicle that I had before the company started, but I'm using that vehicle to for the business? Because I'm a small business. It's just me alone, really, even though my registered as a limited liability. It's my car, but that car is used to do my deliveries and that
You
kind of stuff.
you can probably charge the company for a delivery, but you can't claim capital allowance if the company doesn't own it.
Okay, so I can then charge my company.
For the use of the vehicle.
Is it?
Yeah.
So if it's my vehicle and I'm using it for my business, I can charge my
Once
business the
once you can
expense.
once you can substantiate that it is being used for business activities, yes, you can.
Right. Oh, okay. That's not so bad. That's not so bad. Okay. Okay, but I won't get the capital allowance because it's
Yeah,
not owned by the company.
that's correct.
So can I put the vehicle in the company name?
You can sell the vehicle to the company and have the title transfer. But that is a related party transaction and can get a little bit tricky, but it can be done.
It can be done. Okay. So what are some of the other expenses? Because I know when we are going through when it's tax time and you said, okay, we need the documents, you're asking me for documents.
Mm.
You ask for documents like light bill, water bill, what else you ask for? Internet bill. You ask me for documents like these, and these are expenses that are related to the business that you say can be deducted. And for me, I was working from home, so that formed a part of it. So if you're working from home as a small business, you run a small business out of your home. What are some of the expenses that you can deduct?
Well, you can charge the company for light,
Mm-hmm.
water, um, internet,
Internet.
rent.
Rent. I can charge you for rent.
You charge them for rent. I charge them for
Oh,
rent.
you charge them for rent.
But yes, so if you had an office space, if you did not have the space at home to operate, you would have to rent an office space.
Yes.
Operating in your home come at a cost. So
Yeah.
you can apportion a part of your rent. You can't, I mean, you're not going to be unreasonable with it and just because you don't want to get into problem with the taxman. So you are going to decipher what a reasonable amount is, say probably 35% of your rent, and charge it to a company depending. If you can literally do a calculation depending on the square footage of the house and the square footage of the office space that you use, then that works out even better. But yes, your utilities and your rent, you can charge a company just as if it were a separate office space.
What did you say about square footage?
No, I'm saying if you can use the square footage of your property,
Mm-hmm.
so for example, you have a place that I'm not very good with square foot and those things, but say the property is 10 square foot
Mm-hmm.
in total, and you use one out of it to run the business, and the rent was $100,000, then naturally it's a 10% of the rent that you're paying.
10% of the rent. So for me, where it's just a spare bedroom, I was using where I set up office in my spare bedroom. So what I would calculate the square footage of the spare bedroom.
You don't have to. I'm saying if you have a situation where you can do it that way, it's where it is you can substantiate it beyond a reasonable doubt, then it works out better for you. But you don't have to do that. If you have a two-bedroom and you use one of the room, then you probably can charge half of the rent because that is half of the space.
Okay. Okay. You all hear that? Okay. So we can deduct rent. We can. What if I own the home?
You still can charge rent.
I can still charge rent if I own the home.
You can rent an office space to the business.
Oh, okay. So you can rent an office space to the business even if you own the
It
home.
is
Okay.
it is costing you to have the business run out of your own.
Out, right. So I can charge him for light, water, internet, and rent for the home. What are some of the other expenses? So if I run an Etsy shop or a Shopify shop and I have to pay the fees, is that something I can deduct?
Say that again.
Say for instance, I have an Etsy store, which is an online store. I put my stuff up on Etsy store, but I have to pay like a fee to use that space. Is
Yeah,
that something
definitely.
that
That's
can
a
be
business
deducted from the
expense.
business? Okay,
No,
okay.
that's a definite business expense without a shadow of a doubt. Because if you did not have the business, would you be paying that fee?
Okay. Okay,
So
so
those are some of the questions you want to ask yourself in terms of the expenses. If it
expenses.
is that you are only paying this because you're operating, then without a shadow of a doubt, it's a business expense.
It's a business expense. So when I pay, so for instance, if I wanted what you call it, a payment processing service, like maybe NCB or whatever, who charge for that service, that is also deductible. So you're saying any expense that comes from running the business, whether you're running it from your home, whether it's an online business, whatever, any expense that comes with that is deductible.
It is. Your bank
Are
charges
all
are
expenses
also
deductible?
deductible. Yet bank charges are also deductible.
Is it?
Yeah, so if you're paying
Oh.
to send money to your supplier and to receive money from your customers, it is a deductible.
Oh, sweet, 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 sweet. Okay, great. So let's move on quickly. Exemptions. We were just talking about capital allowances, but you said that there are three main exemptions that entrepreneurs should know about. You said the first one was employers' tax credit. So
Yeah.
I have a local assistant, or I have somebody who helps me in the business. They're employed to the business, and I pay tax for them. That means I get credit for that.
No, if you pay over their statutory on time, then yes, you can claim the
Okay.
employer's portion, only the employer's portion. So what it says is if you remit your statutory obligation on time,
Mhm.
then the employer's portion or 30% of your profit, whichever is less, you get as a deductible.
What?
I knew you would say that. I'm getting
Every
used.
time you say it is what?
So so you have employees, right?
Mhm.
You do a payroll every month, and the statutory is due on the 14th of the month.
Mhm.
If you remit those money by the 14th, on the 14th or before every month,
Mhm.
you know that there is employer and employee portion of taxes.
Right. Yes.
So the employer's portion of the taxes for NIS, ed tax, and is which NHG, right? You
Mhm.
can you total all of that, all of the ones that you pay on time. Total all of that.
Only the ones you pay on time.
Only the ones you pay on time.
Uh-huh.
And then you calculate 30% of your profit.
Uh-huh.
Whichever is less you get as a tax deductible.
Okay. So okay. I think I understand. I hope you guys understand. I think I understand. And we were just talking about capital allowances right a while ago. So can you just briefly go over again what is meant by capital allowances?
Capital allowance is, yeah, people are familiar with depreciation, right? So it no.
You
It is,
mean things that depreciate in value?
yes. So
Like
like
cars?
like cars, like buildings. I think the only thing that don't depreciate is land
Okay.
value. Yes. So it is kind of similar to depreciation but different.
Mhm.
The rates are dictated solely by the TAJ, but you get to write off the asset over a period of time.
Time. Right. You were just saying.
And each asset has their own period of time. So you'd have to look at the schedule to see what is applicable to the asset class. There's several assets fall in the same class.
Different class, right?
So a desk and a chair is furniture. So whatever the rate is for furniture, you get to write it off over that period of
So
time.
it's not an indefinite write-off. I can't just keep writing it off every year forever and ever. It meant there's
Oh,
a
that is
time
what.
period.
All right. So remember, the value of the asset is 100%. So
Mhm.
if the write-off is 10% per year, you only get to write off for 10 years. After 10 years, it's fully written
It's
off.
fully okay. So if it's $10 million and it's 10% per year,
$1 million
it's
a year
$1 million a year for 10 years,
for
and then
10 years.
after that, then your allowance done.
Yeah, but after that, what you find too after that is the value in terms of quality of the asset is not good anyway. You probably need to replace it. So you probably
Right.
have new assets to write
To
off
write off. Okay. So then you
anyway.
just
So
okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So for those of you just jumping in, we're talking about capital allowances, and capital allowances, Neveen says, like for instance, if you have a building or if you have a vehicle that you use for your business or a piece of machinery, etc., you depending on the schedule or the category that that asset fall under, there is a schedule for the allowance. So you can, it's like a deductible. Would you say it's a
Yes, it is.
deductible?
It is a deductible.
It's
So
a
after you
deductible.
calculate what your taxes are, you
Yeah.
deduct your capital
you,
allowances.
you can deduct at capital allowance, but you can't deduct all of it at once. It happens over schedule. Whatever the schedule is, it happens over that period of time. And then the last one, I have no idea what it is. It says claiming of withholding taxes. What's that?
So
What's
you
that?
have several types of withholding taxes.
Hmm.
What it is kind of like income tax. It's income tax, but it's taxes withheld upfront. So,
Right.
for example, when you look, when you get interest payment from the bank,
Hmm.
there's a withholding tax amount. That tax is tax paid in advance to the government.
So I pay tax in advance to the government.
Everybody who gets interest does, but there are different types. So you have income tax withheld, which is direct to your invoice. I think once you have a client,
Is that the GCT thing?
no, not GCT at all, it's income tax, directly related to income tax. So
Okay.
if you so you invest in JMB, right?
Yes.
You have a instrument there, and it gives you um interest amount of $10,000 a month. Of that $10,000, JMB is going to deduct $2,500.
For
25%
income tax.
withholding tax. That's what it's called.
Oh, is that when, like, okay, so we had situations sometimes where a client would pay us money, especially when they were paying us in US, and they said, well, they have to withhold a certain amount of money for government, but we could claim it back or something like that.
That's income tax withheld. That is similar but different from this. It's the nature, all of
Okay.
them, all of the withholding tax you get to claim back when you are calculating your
So
tax.
never even want to claim back on it. We'll talk off the air. Let's talk off the air.
You
So
need
this
to get
is
a certificate though from so either a certificate, or because a lot of it, like the banks don't give you a certificate, but if you go on your portal on your TRN, you can find the certificates for the different. So there has to be proof that the tax was withheld. Somebody can't just really say I'm withholding this for the government and
right,
provide no proof that the government actually got it,
right.
because then that becomes a problem between you and the person and not the government.
Well, not the government, right. So,
But
so when a client is sending me money and I see that they have deducted a certain amount of money for withheld tax or whatever, they're supposed to provide a certificate that I can then use to claim that back
right, or you can go on your portal and see if you see the
and find
certificate
it.
you're gonna
Okay,
see,
so
right?
it should be on my portal
It should
if the
be.
government has
If
received
it's
it
not right, if it's not there, then you need to go back to the person and ask them for the certificate,
for the
proof that it was
certificate.
paid over.
And what is the point of this with withheld tax?
So it is. It helps with to avoid tax evasion.
Oh, so they're withholding it just in case you decide not to pay your taxes.
So it's an advance. So after you pull all of your income together now and calculate what your taxes are, then you would say, "Oh, I already paid this via this means." That's your
Oh, okay. So that can then be deducted as well.
that is deducted.
Is
If you don't deduct it, then you're giving the government some free money.
some free money, and we don't want to do that. And I mean, what happens when you overpay tax? Because that happened to us.
You
So what
can
happens when you overpay tax?
you can request a refund. I don't know. I don't know how much confidence I have in the process of getting a refund, but you're supposed to request a refund, or you can leave it for the next year when you're filing your taxes as an advance payment. Kadian?
Hi, Nevine. Sorry about that. The internet just
Oh,
come out
that's
for a
fine.
minute.
That's fine.
All right. So you said we can request
Yes, you can request a refund. I've seen people get their refund, but I've also seen situations where it take a minute. Um,
a minute, like how much years?
we'll just leave it as a minute. Um, but the truth is, if you're continuously in operation, if you're not closing out your operation, right, then leave it. Leave it towards next year.
So it can go towards next year.
Yeah,
If I overpay my taxes this year, it will come off
yeah, man,
from.
you can.
Oh,
You
okay,
can.
okay, because you can just lose it like that. Then.
Right, you know, just lose it like that.
All right. So Charlene asks, Nevine, is withholding tax a set percentage of the income amount across the board, or does it depend on the type of income?
It doesn't depend on the type of income, it depends on the type of withholding tax.
Okay.
So, for example, I think tax withheld on dividends is 15%, tax withheld on income interest income is 25%. And then the income tax withheld that you spoke about, I think, is either 3 or 5%. So it depends on the withholding tax, not the type of income, really.
Okay. So wrapping up with Devi now, guys, and we're gonna go through five. These are money management tips from Devi. Now, remember earlier in the show we said that accountants are different from money managers or financial advisors. The fortunate thing for us is that Nevine is experienced in both and is knowledgeable in both, and so she's sharing some money management tips with us. And the first one you said, Nevine, was that cash flow is just as and sometimes even more important than profitability. What do you mean by that?
So your profitability is very straight cut. The cost of your service, the cost for your service, that tells you your profit, right? But it doesn't always translate into the money you receive, because you can sell to somebody who just not paying you.
Government.
a, a lot of times persons focus a lot on profitability and ignore the cash flow. You need to set tools and systems in place where you ensure that the money is coming in so you can meet your obligation and maintain your relationship with your suppliers. So, because if you don't have suppliers, you don't have a business. Whatever the business is that you have, if you don't have suppliers, you don't have a business, and there's no future benefit that you can get. So, it is very important that you set systems in place that you can collect the money that you earn.
Okay.
In a sense.
Which means don't do business with government agencies because they're notorious for not paying you
Yeah, said it, not I.
for 3 to 6 9 months. Oh
Okay, they
God,
said
that
it.
was. And you know the worst part of that is, David, as the accountant, you're seeing where invoices were sent out for this thing, and that is calculated into my profit. But me not had the money. Father say
But
3 months, 6 months later, it just a come in.
the truth is, though, to be fair to the government of Jamaica,
David, do you have clients that are agencies? You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell
is
me.
that no, but on a real though, although I can understand, because we calculate, and I don't want my kind of worms, but we calculate our profit and loss on an accrual basis, meaning we
Right.
don't have to collect it. It don't have to be real cash or anything
Right.
for us to calculate it. However, when those debt really become bad, and the income tax act says that you have to prove that you've exhausted all option of collecting it, then you can write it back. It is a deductible. Your bad debt is a deductible when
Oh,
it
okay.
becomes bad.
Okay.
But you can't just wake up tomorrow and say, I made this sale yesterday. I don't think I'm going to collect it. It's bad. You
It's bad.
understand? So there
Yeah,
is
got it.
yes, but
So you have to exhaust
right,
all efforts.
right. You can't
Okay.
put in the wash.
Okay. And the next tip you said is budgeting. You said budgeting is necessary for the survival of your business.
Yes, like you remember you were saying the other day that sometimes when the figures put together, yes, you're like, when did we do this?
Yeah.
When you have a benchmark for your spending and for your earning, then nothing really takes you by surprise and you're able to prioritize better. Um, how you use your resources, becoming familiar with deadlines, what is due before what, how I'm going to do this, that kind of thing. Just succession planning, just knowing where you're going and how you want to do it kind of gives you some eyes in terms of what you're doing. I really don't think anybody, personally or business wise, should operate without a budget. Once you get some money, put pencil to paper and say, how am I going to spend this money? How am I going to spend this money that will benefit me in some way in terms of my growth and development? Don't just,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, got it. The next thing you said was goal setting. You said you need a financial plan and you need to set financial goals so you can keep your business on track for growth.
Right. So one of the things that you find is that we have business ideas. I can tell you, it kind of did happen to me too. You have a business idea and you say, I'm going to do it. But you don't even know if you believe yourself that it's going to happen. And when things start to happen, it kind of take you by surprise. I'm like, all right, I have gotten to where I saw. Where next? So have a plan, have a where next plan. So you
Yeah.
know that you want to start this business. Okay, it has started. What kind of growth do you want to see? What kind of
Yes.
market do you want to tap into? Who do
Yes.
you
We talked
want
about
to
that last
service?
week.
That kind of thing. Because
Right.
sometimes we are sitting on gold mines and we don't know.
Were you watching the show last week? Because that's what we
I
spoke about
wasn't.
last week. Having that plan so you can track, so you can know when you've hit a growth phase and what the next growth phase is.
Right.
Actually knowing what you want to do with the business. So that's important. You see, no one I heard from an accountant, so oh no, no, believe me, right? Okay, great. You said that also as an entrepreneur, you need to take calculated risks. Me hear the word risk and my bottom tighten up. So what do you mean by calculated risk?
So I can safely say you're a risk averse person,
I am
right?
like Jamaican banks, I am very risk averse. Yes.
So calculated risk involves some mathematics, but I would say more than anything, it involves research.
Right.
Not because you hear Tom say it work out for Tom, you're going to just jump in it. Do some research, see what it is about, see how it aligns with what you want, because something might
You know,
work
your
out for Tom
financial plan and your financial
so
goal setting.
see how it fits in your goal, see how it fits in your personality, see how it fits in your budget. Because the truth is, um, risk is risk, and it means that you can lose something. Can you afford to lose it? Is a question you ask yourself. And if this loss is realized, how do I come back from it if I take this chance? So sometimes we see something and we have to jump off it without even thinking too much. I agree. But more often than never, I think we need to sit down and do some research and really understand what we're getting ourselves into, the benefit and the pitfalls before we get into it.
Right. So what she says now is not every IPO if we go jumping now. Because money is
Precisely.
exactly because
Look
that's a
at the
sexy thing these days.
prospectus.
Exactly. That's a sexy thing these days, especially as entrepreneurs. And so we'll have a look at extra cash now. And so we want to invest because wealth generation and all sorts of good stuff. But you have to really be careful what you're investing in. It's actually quick question though, Nevine. Is investment an asset? Are your
Mhm.
investments an asset?
It is.
Is it deductible?
No, but as no, no,
I
and
can't deduct like if I lose an investment.
no.
Say for instance, my business invest in something, not me.
Mm-hmm.
Can I deduct something from no?
No.
No. Okay. I like how she never answer me. Okay. You said, and the last thing is to keep a reserve.
Yes.
What is a reserve?
So a lot of times, especially as entrepreneurs, you make a nice little profit this year, and you just spend all it.
Buy car,
And then
excitement.
next year, COVID hits,
Ooh,
and you never see it coming,
never saw it.
and you end up going right under when you could have weathered the storm if you had some reserve.
Ah,
So
okay.
always try to keep some reserve.
So reserve is like money in the back, as we would say.
Money put
Money
aside. It's a
put aside,
savings.
right? So that can help you through rough
Right.
patches. Because as I was talking about last week, there will be rough patches. There will be months where you're like, I am dying of hunger. Why did I even do this? I don't want to do this anymore. But
Trust.
if you had that financial plan in place and you were budgeting and you had the money in reserve, you could have figured your way out of it.
Yeah.
All right then. So that's Nevine's 5 money management tips this week. So I was talking about you a lot last week, Nevine, because I was explaining to them how you kind of really helped us out of a very intense situation when it came to taxes, and kind
Intense
of help
indeed.
us, yeah, figured it out. Because and it is important, guys, that you have a small business, especially businesses that are in the creative industries. It is good to have somebody who understands that and who's friendly towards you as a small business. And so I recommended you, Nevine. So where can we, if persons are interested in your services, which are what are your services that you actually offer?
From top to bottom, anything accounting. We do payroll, we do management accounting, we do the annual filings for income taxes, for corporate taxes. We help with fixed asset and inventory management. We do data entry, um, everything accounting you can think of.
And then write letter to the tax office, because you don't want to talk to the
Yes,
tax office yourself, because they
yes.
will mad you.
And so one of the things that I think I even took for granted, because it's just my nature. I I want to see my clients grow.
Yeah.
Um, it gives me joy when
Mm-hmm.
somebody starts with me
Mm-hmm.
at level one, and even if they decide to leave, they're leaving at a level 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
It really gives me joy. It gives me a sense of, okay, I did something right, and
Mm-hmm.
that is important to me. Money is important to everybody, but I'm not just about collecting your money. I
That is true.
want to give value for your money. I want you to feel comfortable spending the money with you. I tell people I really don't have a collection issue with my client. And I think one of the primary reason is that I do the work.
That
I
she does.
I will stay up until 2 o'clock in the night to make sure that I get something done and ensure that my client meets the deadline. In terms of the hassle with communicating with the TAJ, I take that on for my clients, because sometimes I don't even know what to say. That's the truth. And when the different genres are thrown at them, they don't know how to respond. And I appreciate that fact. So I, I don't send a communication without them going through it and agreeing to it, but I ensure that I take that off their plate so that they can make money.
And that's why we love Naveen over here, because talking to the tax office is a headache. And then what I do appreciate about you too, Naveen, is that she's available. She's accessible at some random time of the night when some wait me up to sleep. I'm like, Naveen, what did they mean by this? Because what is scary sometimes is that you get so much automated messages from the tax officer. You get these big red things flashing on your tax portal. You're going, what does this mean? And they say, if you don't pay this by this time, then penalties. They're going, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna lose everything. Right? Then you message her and she's like, calm down. This
Yeah,
this is
I've had
not
to
that
talk you
serious.
off the edge
Yeah. Right? So yeah. She has had to tell me off the gist, because we're seeing these big things, red things flashing on our portals. Like, what does this mean? Oh my gosh. She's like, no, don't worry about it. So it's good that you are accessible. So guys, her contact information and her email is on the screen. Get in touch with her if you're having issues, or even if you're just starting out. It's probably the best time to get in touch with her. If you're just starting out and you need to start out on a good footing, or you're having difficulties right now, or for whatever reason, invest in an accountant, and this is a good one to have. Neveen, thank you so much for being with us on the show today. I really appreciate you.
No problem. Thank
Me
you.
would ask Neveen about personal tax problems, but never mind. Appreciate you, Neveen. Take care.
No problem. You too.
All right. Thank you so much. And again, she's not feeling well, but she's here, and this is the second time I'm asking her to come and talk to some people for me, and she has said yes all the time. So she's very accessible, guys, and has a way of explaining things where it's easy for you to understand, because talking about taxes, oh, sometimes it's difficult. So, guys, up next we have Mr. Glenn Henry and Mr. Corey Mills. And they are part of the Windies Direct project. And this is a project that I really do believe in, and I really do think is a fantastic thing. And we're going to continue the conversation about money, but we're talking about money as it relates to the gaming industry, or the burgeoning gaming industry in the Caribbean. So that is coming up next. All right, so we are here with Glenn and Corey Mills. Hi, Glenn. Good morning. You're muted. Hi, Corey. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Morning.
Good morning. So we're continuing the conversation
Hi,
about
morning.
money. Morning, Glenn, and particularly talking about as it relates to the games industry. And this is a conversation I've had on this platform before, because this is something that, as a creative or somebody who's involved in the creative industry, it's such an expansive thing. And we usually talk about creativity in very specific ways. We don't really talk about creativity in terms of gaming necessarily. In my opinion, because maybe I'm outside of the scene, so I don't know, but from the outside looking in, it's not necessarily something we talk about a lot, but there is a lot of potential there in terms of ability to earn money. So one of the first things I want to, introduce yourselves, of course. Glenn. Glenn, I know right now you are here in the capacity as, are you still the president of the
Um,
Jamaica Game Developers Society?
well, the term really and truthfully, the title is loudest member because it's not necessarily structured
Right.
as a group in that way.
Yeah.
So I'm like the principal advocate for the group. I speak mostly for the collective interests, and we are really a kind of grassroots collective trying
Mhm.
to learn more about the business and craft of interactive media as
Mhm.
it relates to the island and the wider Caribbean.
And Corey, you are the founder and chief animator and illustrator at C Mills Animation Studio.
Man, yeah, big up for the introduction, you see. Yeah.
Right. So what is C Mills Animation Studios?
Okay, so we are a small 2D animation studio. We focus on traditional 2D methods, and we provide both graphic design, illustration, pre-production, and the whole production as it relates to 2D animation. Anything 2D that you need, we got you. All right. So we help develop your ideas and concepts from pre-production stage all the way to post, so that you can, get the full experience. You get a full themed, whatever it is. If you're doing like an advertisement, if you're doing a music video, we have all the people that are there that can create that video for you in that package. Yeah.
Awesome. So you are not necessarily a games developer yourself, but you work with games developers to develop the animation and the stuff like that.
Well, hold on. 'Cause remember,
Uh-huh.
animation can also be applied into gaming,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So we do we do game development, but more on the side of the production, where we create the asset, we create
Mm.
the movements, we create the sprites. That's what they call them, sprites. If you're doing like 2D animation, and that can be converted into a game,
Mm.
right? So there are various ways in which you can use 2D animation or animation in general in
Mm.
different mediums, in film and in gaming.
Okay. All right. So we're
Mhm.
gonna we're gonna start out with Glenn though. Glenn, is it a
Mhm.
visibility issue? I don't want to use the word issue because the let me start again. Would you say that we have a gaming industry in Jamaica and the Caribbean? Is that a thing?
Okay, so that is a broad question. Are there practitioners? Are there people who are in the space doing the creative heavy lifting? Yes. People like Corey, people like myself, people like other members of the JGDS. We are interested and we are making content. We're making games, right? So it's there, but it's very much nascent, meaning we're all trying to figure out like build a business, a creative business around these practices and trying to pull things together. So interest, and there are practitioners and there are skills, but it's still nascent. We still have a lot to learn more about the formal industry as a whole. Things like funding, publisher arrangements, those type of things. But we're growing and we're getting there quickly.
Okay. So what you're saying is that um
We
we're
soon
up
come.
and coming. We're up and coming because right now in terms of the gaming industry, it's multiple billions of dollars, US dollars.
Millions, gajillions, yes.
You're right, industry.
Mhm.
And so as a fledgling industry ourselves, like in Jamaica and in the Caribbean, we have not, would you say, let me say, would you say that we have not yet tapped into that billions of dollars that is
Yeah,
out there in the international space?
no, we have not properly tapped into that in a realistic way, not yet. But part of that is going to be because of visibility, and then the other half is going to be education. So,
Yes, let's talk about the visibility.
mhm.
Is that an issue for us? Is it because we are new while we are not yet as visible or not yet at the table then when it comes to developing games, and being recognized as a place where people develop games? You know what I mean? Is it
Mhm.
because we are new or is it because we're black people in the Caribbean? Because we can go there.
I would say, just to interject, I think it's the portfolios we don't really have.
Right.
You get me? Where everybody's still in development. So, um, and it's already a small island. So we
What
just
about
need a
the
little
larger
more time.
Caribbean as a block?
so
Uh,
so that has the same problem as a block. We all are, building
mhm,
up that portfolio, building up, figuring out that process of like, okay, how many games do I need to make before I can understand my production cycle? Or, what type of games, resonate with the market? What do people like to see? Um, Figuring out all that, mechanics is still happening. But on the flip, because while that is true, we're also kind of fighting against the stream because you, as a game developer, a small indie independent game developer, you're still fighting against those struggles. So if you're not in like the hub cities, Montreal, California, you're not able to attend the trade shows, the events,
Yeah,
things
make
like
the
that,
connections and network.
and make the connections and network. So that is harder for us, and that is harder for collective everybody. But on top of that, we are still building, like Corey pointed out. So
Yeah.
it's twofold,
mhm,
right? Yeah.
Do you think that there is an interest in, because I read an article that you do with Polygon
Mhm.
for the Windies Direct project, and one of the things that you were talking about was the storytelling aspect of gaming. I think it was either you or somebody else that they got a comment from, was talking about the storytelling aspect of gaming, and I thought that was interesting. Do you think that our stories are sexy enough or interesting enough to launch us into that international gaming stratosphere?
Oh, definitely, 100%, 110%. Um, so so just to give context, the Windies Direct itself is a showcase that the JGD has kind of pulled together to
Yeah,
just highlight up and coming projects or projects that are just released,
right,
made by people from the Caribbean specifically or the wider diaspora, right? So
right.
it's a showcase of like bunch of trailers of these games that are made by Trinidadian people, made by people from Ghana, made by people from Jamaica,
Yeah, right
all
across the
over,
Caribbean and
right,
in
right,
the
right, right,
diaspora.
and
Yeah.
the diaspora, right? And it showcases like this is like the first step, like this addresses the visibility problem Corey mentioned, like, oh, we are here. And the idea is to inspire that and kind of move us forward. So that is the first step. And then the trick now is when we announced the Windies Direct, most of the positive responses came from outside the Caribbean.
Right.
These are coming from first world countries. They're looking at this and saying, "Oh, this is dope.
Yeah.
Let's boost this."
Yeah.
Right? So there is this interest in Caribbean stories or even just Caribbean developers, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional cultural piece,
Oh yes,
right?
just gonna ask you that because I noticed that's something you said, that it don't always have to be dopey stories, it don't have to be Anansi stories. It can expand beyond that because we're not a monolith, right?
Exactly. So
Uh,
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, even though there is value to be mined from that, there are
yeah,
people who want to hear what we have to say.
yeah,
So take
you know
advantage
what's
of that.
interesting? You know
Mhm.
what's interesting about that?
yeah. Right.
I was talking to Joel about that the other day, literally yesterday. I was
Yeah,
talking about showing our culture. It doesn't have to be cliche, or it doesn't have to hit on the cliche things that people know about Jamaica. It can really go more in depth with that, right? You can go
yeah,
more in depth, and you can go more day to day cultural things. You get me? Things that foreigners probably would not know,
yeah,
like very small, subtle things that happen in the day to day. So I think that's very important to show that authenticness, not the plasticky, corporate looking Jamaica, but more like that real Jamaica, like the real culture that comes with it.
yeah.
So showing that in story is very important because that's what people are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Foreign people, they're looking for that authentic Caribbean or Jamaican or whatever experience. They don't want the cookie cutter one. They don't want the one that is the touristy looking one. They want the one that, okay, what is the authentic version? You get me? And that's what will really give us a leg up in the industry.
Right, because we have our own stories we can tell, whether it's from a traditional perspective or just stories that are born from that traditional perspective. I'll give you an example. Last week or the week before, we went to the National Gallery, and
Mm,
one of the exhibits in the National Gallery was items that they found in caves around Jamaica. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So they found
mm,
items in a cave in Jamaica, different caves. So they found a stool, a ceremonial stool. They found a spoon. They found different things, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm starting to think of, oh my God, I wonder what this was used for. And so from things
mm,
like this, you could generate really interesting stories about
mm,
who was it? Well, we don't know if it was the Tanos or the Caribs or the Arawaks.
oh,
Whoever it was,
whatever, yeah.
yeah, right? So whosoever it was, there's so many stories that we could imagine it. I don't know if that's a word.
Imagine it. Where you get that
Imagine
one
it.
there?
You don't know what a word there. Imagine
Never.
it. So much rich history that we can take and turn it into stories. So the question I really had was, you and Glenn answered it, and you're answering to say, yeah, that yeah, these stories are interesting to people, but the question also is, would those stories put us in a box? And I think that's what Glenn was trying to say in the
I,
It
article.
it, it
it depends.
doesn't. Well, go first, Corey.
I think that now more than ever, these industries are looking for diversity. If you look at all the games that we have now, them always have the same mythology. It's always Greek, or it's always, you get what I'm saying? It's always zombies, or it's always the American way. It's always, you get me? So you're not getting other cultures chiming in. It's only recently you start seeing that. If you watch Black Panther, you've seen the different cultures starting to add in
African,
that
yeah,
you don't
yeah,
usually
yeah.
see. Exactly. Right? So I think now more than ever they're looking for that, and people of Jamaican culture, they just want to see more of it in
Right.
different medium and polished. You get me? Because that's important. So you have to polish it.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that in a
You get me?
minute. That's the polished aspect
Mm,
of it. Yeah. Your
mm,
opinion on that, Glenn?
So my opinion is, like, no, I don't think it puts us in a box, but it's also important to know that it doesn't necessarily, like, not everything has to match that tourist ideal. Like
Mm,
we're not just beach and coconut trees.
Right.
exactly. Mm.
We're not,
But
right? So the story about the time, you're late to a meeting and you have to go join a taxi man, get in a taxi man car and police pull it
Hunger
over,
Games
or
style.
and that could be a compelling tale. Like that
For
alone could
sure.
be a compelling tale. You
Oh,
can
yes.
do that, right? So there is like this idea that you can use the medium of games to kind of do this kind of digital anthropology, or at the same time
Mhm.
explore what it means to be a Jamaican, what it means to be a part of the Caribbean. Like
Mhm.
you can do both. You don't need to feel that you're boxed in.
You don't need to feel boxed in.
Ample of ways in which this
mm,
can come up, right? Outside of like the traditional, like Corey mentioned, like the God of War and stuff. There's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
game called Venba, right? I think it's not out yet. It's called Venba. It's done in this very kind of 2D storybook looking
Yeah.
style. I think it's coming out of a team in Toronto. I'm not 100% sure, but the entirety of the game is traditional Indian cooking. That's the
Oh,
entirety of the game.
is it?
Entirety. That's the game. I know I'm looking at that. I'm like, why couldn't you do that about Caribbean food? Why couldn't you do that
Yeah,
about Ackee and saltfish?
yeah.
Like things like that. Like you don't have to be boxed in. You can think about new ways of exploring your culture in
Mm,
this medium, and that's the
yeah.
one. That's why I love it so much.
That's why you love it so much. And going back to Corey, who was talking about it being polished, because then that's another thing. The quality of it has to live up to a particular standard, right? So how do we get to that point where we're creating not just really amazing stories, but we have the quality and all that comes with having a quality product that is ready for an international market?
so I believe that we need to be ensuring that all these talents that we have a proper portfolio for one. Um, they need to make sure that they're trained well, because here's the thing: most cases, people create a passion project and they're either doing it on their own, you get me, or they're trying to do it quickly. So it's not you're not going to always get the best quality because of the environment you're in sometimes, right? You're rushing to do something, you're rushing to create something, or it's just you, so you don't have all the resources available to you. So it's important for people to kind of, or creatives to come together and actually do work together, put our talents and put them pieces together so that the product can be as polished as possible. Because let me tell you something. When I went abroad, before the pandemic hit, I was going to different conferences, internationally. So I said, okay, I'm watching the booths, and I said, all right, this booth have a game. This booth have them demo reel that's showing all them animations of them studio. You see like a whole section where it's just Ireland people there. So the Ireland people are in that section. So them have about 5, 6 studio. So I'm like, yo, this is eyes. Like people are coming to the booth, people see that they have potential because of the work that they've done, right?
Hmm.
So for us to be visible, it can't just be digital, but we have to at some point be able to go into these conferences, whether they are webinars or they're going there physically. It's important because they tell you when you go there, they're like, you have to be here. Like these are where we're interacting. These are where the
Yeah,
people make deals.
yeah.
You get me? This is where you're meeting the executive. You're meeting the people that
The
push the money
studios and
around.
the owner, yeah, 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 the investors,
Hmm.
etc.
And
Yeah.
them see your face and them say, oh, you're from Jamaica. Oh, you're doing this. Wow, this is great. If you actually have a proper portfolio, right? And you
Yeah.
have
You see
something to
how you're
show.
stressing the importance of having a proper
Yeah.
portfolio. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
man, naturally.
Hmm.
Glenn, quickly,
Hmm.
so what Corey is saying is that there's an investment that you have to make. If this is something that you're serious about and you're
Hmm.
serious about breaking into the industry, there's some investments that you have to make. So maybe traveling to go to conferences and shows and cons, the different cons, Comic Con or whatever con,
Hmm.
making sure
Hmm.
that you
Hmm.
have a proper portfolio is an investment. But unlike regular businesses where you can probably get a loan for do a startup or something,
Now
there's
let's
not
do
really anywhere to access capital to get started with this. So what do we do?
Oh well. First off, I think you can treat it like a business in the traditional sense and get loans to kind of cover travel expenses. You can put that to your
Okay.
business, right? And write that off. So it's important to consider that, right?
Mhm,
But there are other avenues to kind of put yourself out there. There are a lot of digital events, less so now than more when the pandemic was in full swing,
mhm.
that you can attend and present
Virtually.
yourself virtually and pitch, right? So that is one avenue to get over that kind of capital hurdle. But everything that Corey said a while ago, just to reiterate, that is tied to the whole education. That is knowing about how to present
Mm,
yourself. Because like making the game is not even like 50% of the effort when you're running a game development studio or game development business, right? You have to know like what types of games you're making. You have to consider the marketing. You have to consider the team. If you have, you're doing the cloud of some subcontractor approach, which is kind of what I do, which is like, all right, I need this person for audio. How much for 15, 16 tracks at this length or whatever? Okay, I pay you there. I have to ensure that I have proper bookkeeping
Right.
mhm,
So it is, so
of that,
in
cover
in
all of that.
essence, yeah. So in
Mhm.
essence, it's a proper business. You
It
have to
is a
think of it
business.
as a proper business, which means that all that accompanies the management and operations of a proper business applies here.
Yes, exactly. So when you say that, how do we get capital for this type of venture? The usual avenues apply. Loans. I know DBJ has a couple has their voucher program that allows you to kind of get over certain stuff. I know that there are things like the Ignite program. I don't think they've funded a gaming project as yet. But the more people that do the work and do the legwork and apply, eventually one of us are gonna get in, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big
mhm,
celebration there, right? So all of those things are what I was referring to when I said that we're still trying to figure things out. You have to treat it as an actual business. Track your expenses, project for your returns and everything. Do your market research. Look at your comparables and all of that stuff.
Is there a good enough issue? Do we have a good enough issue? Meaning, do we see ourselves in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, as good enough to compete on an international stage when it comes to game? Because in my opinion, I think we are. I think we are personally. But then
Mhm.
I have personal biases. But do you think
mm.
generally, is that belief a thing within the community, and is that belief a thing that expands outside of the community to the wider society?
I think there's a belief of like that in the community. I believe that we have the talent. I see the the projects from Corey, and I'm like, yeah, that's world class. That can go places, right? So
Mhm.
that is a belief I hold. However, I do see that there is a little bit of a gap in wider society, at least in Jamaica. I can't speak for the wider Caribbean. Um, and I actually think that problem is a mix. As most things, it's nuanced, right? Um, we aren't there with how to communicate the value that gaming represents in a way that resonates with the people who are investing, right?
Right.
So it's like, oh yes, it's a big industry. It's bigger than movies and music combined, which is true.
Which is
Um,
true. Yeah.
but we're still having a little bit of dissonance in terms of communicating how we can tap into that and return value, right? Because we need to have those success cases, moderately or otherwise. We need to have all those case studies to reference, and we need to be able to break that down and say, look, yes, it's a small studio. Yes, these things exist, but we have the skill sets here. We have the opportunities here, right? We have international people looking in Jamaica and signing contracts with people in
Yeah.
Jamaica, right, to publish games. So that happens. So it's a matter of packaging all of that in a way that people can digest, understand, and get excited about.
Right. So because people say gaming and people automatically think, oh, you're just sitting there playing games. But gaming is an encompassing kind of industry. So you have the people who make the games, you have people like Corey who animates and illustrates, you have people who do the storyboarding, and people who do the marketing, and people who do the legal
Mhm.
aspect. and there's a lot that is actually in character design, and there's a lot that is actually involved in it. And as Glenn said, it makes more money than movies and music combined year on year,
Exactly.
and is even more so making money these days. And so it is a very lucrative thing. But again, because we're such a traditional society in so many ways in terms of careers and what career is a viable career, we don't see being a gamer or somebody who makes games as viable. And that's why I was
Mm-hmm.
asking about getting the type of investments that you need to start up, because our banks, as risk averse as they are, would they give you a loan to start a gaming studio? That's a whole other conversation altogether. Yeah,
Okay,
I
let
don't
me,
go put you guys in that position. Correct.
okay, let me tell you something. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, the most recent Call of Duty game, I look it up right now,
Mm-hmm.
has made $1 billion in 10 days. That's USD we're talking, right?
1 billion with a B.
Yes, in 10 days. That's just 10 days, right?
Wow.
So that's a lot of money, and that'll feed enough people, right?
Yeah.
You have a big studio of over 100,000 people I get that food, right?
Uh-huh.
Plus profit,
Yeah.
right? Company I get profit. So it is a big industry. It's something that we don't take serious because people still pre games or anything that has to do with art or animation as kiddie, and oh, that's good, you're doing that, yeah, that's great, like it's not a, oh, this is a serious profession, right? So what's the margins? They're not treat it like that. They're treating it like a little personal project you're doing, like,
Yeah.
oh, when you blow up, let me know, kind of thing. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not take it serious as a serious business. So people need to realize that these games are making money,
Mhm.
like, and it's a big opportunity for us because we have the culture. People already love the culture. People already love our music. They know us for our music alone. They need to know more,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's
What were
what
you
I
saying,
think.
Glenn?
I want to challenge that one. I want to challenge that. You reference Call of Duty, Modern Warfare titles. Those are popular and those are known, right? But there's a game called Vampire
True.
Survivors, right? And if you look at that,
Mm,
look at the quality there, right? That right now is probably one of the most popular games in the game for the year. It's played by over 1 million people. It's still for $3, and it is going gangbusters.
mm.
There's no
Remember
reason
the
a
name?
small
Sorry,
team
you
Remember?
said that right there is what, Glenn? You chipped out a little bit.
Yeah.
gangbusters. I'm trying to find the actual sales numbers right now, but what's
What you said
this?
it's doing numbers?
Yeah, I'm trying to double check on it right now, but it is one of the most popular indie games for the year for this year. It's nominated for indie debut title at the Game
Indie
Awards.
games. Right.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah, Vampire Survivors. It's a very
Okay.
simple looking game. I encourage you to look it up, but it's incredible. It
So
doesn't
you're
take
saying that
a
it doesn't have to have complex storylines and all that excitement
Oh
for
yeah,
people
I
to.
heard about that. Yeah, I heard about this game. Yeah,
Yes, it
yeah.
doesn't need to have a
It's,
complex storyline. It doesn't need to have super high level, top level quality. What it needs to have
mm,
is like at the very least a compelling story or some sticky
mm,
mechanics or some other engaging bit of it. This is the game design aspect of it that people tend to overlook as
Oh,
well,
look, right.
right?
Mhm.
That is what it
mm.
means to be gaming. So we have this wide um buffet of directions to go with the medium,
Yeah. And
right?
so that's a good point to pivot, because I don't want to have you guys here long and we're wrapping up.
Mm,
So we just had the announcement made, the Windies Direct um
Showcase.
selectees, the showcase, the persons who were in that showcase. And so the question I have is, what role do you or do you want the Windies Direct project to play in advancing gaming culture and more profitability in the space? What role do you foresee the Windies project playing in that?
All right, so the Windies Direct initiative is kind of the direct answer to what Corey was speaking about before, like portfolio, right? So one of the things I've noticed throughout the years is a lot of people are interested in gaming and game development, but they don't necessarily finish. are for one reason or another, or they don't finish to like a certain quality. The idea for the Windies Direct is to kind of be a flagship event to happen every year. You work on your project over whatever period, and you submit your trailer, and that trailer will get eyes on your project in some way or form. Right? Because what we also did is we built out a Steam event and ran that for a couple of days for the event itself. That got people looking at the games, looking at your game on Steam, wish listing it, that type of thing, right? So the entire idea is it's huge. It's a flagship call to action. It's like if you're a Caribbean dev and you're working on a game, here is a goal for you to move towards. Here's a milestone for you to aspire to. That's the idea for it.
So it's just one giant portfolio for the Caribbean then. So you're putting all of them in one place and you're saying, here's the best of us. You know, these are all the people that are doing these things. Check them out, support. Is that kind of thing?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
because it that didn't exist, not really. So having that flagpole, just that flag in the sand, just there, is supposed to be a point of inspiration.
Yeah.
Because I shared it with their
Right.
class, their Cape class, and they're like, "Yo, these are cool. This is awesome. I didn't know these people were Jamaican. I didn't know things like that," and it got them gassed up. And I'm excited to see what they create
Yeah.
and have that build over time.
Yeah, because Corey, sometimes it is important to see other people. You know, African Americans always talk about representation and how important representation is, seeing themselves on in media, in popular media, as popular culture. Well, they are popular culture, but they're not being properly represented in media. And so it's the same thing with us as young people, or for young people, seeing other Jamaicans, other people in the Caribbean, same background, same kind of experiences, etc., doing the thing that you are wanting to do, and knowing that it is possible for this to happen because here are other people doing it. That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Like what Glenn is doing with Wendy's is amazing. Like it's one of the things that I had an issue with from I even started doing art in general, just animation in general. We need people pushing us and marketing us in different ways. It can't just be the individual itself pushing it, right? Like you need to see some kind of community being developed.
Yeah.
You see it when I see it when I go abroad. I see it internationally. I did meet up with a couple Irish people up in Miami one time, and Irish people they like to drink, so they did a talk and thing, and I say, come to this meeting. We have like the whole Ireland people here. The whole industry is here. And when I went inside, everybody knew each other. They had products done for different companies. They're doing well. They're talking about their industry and how they're going to push the industry. So they're working together to help boost the industry, because we have to do it together. We're so small. We're just
Yes. Yes.
the
The
Caribbean.
collective. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to come together and put our talent and just show that we have a bag of things working on. Right?
Right.
People want to see that we have stuff doing.
So, Corey, you were a part of that Wendy's Direct showcase. How did that come about for you?
Okay, so Christopher from Gizada, he did link me
Big
up
up,
and say, yo,
Chris.
yeah man, big
Yeah.
up. You see me, him did call me and say, yo, there's somebody that has this Windies game development thing where we're gonna post our trailer. They just want some content. And I said, okay, yeah, because I'm working on a game right now, so why not? Show them the progress, show them what Enter Zion is about, the game, and it's not just a game, it's a whole 360 strategy we want to do. Series, we want to provide a story, one bag of things for, just showing the Jamaican culture and all that.
Right.
So being a part of that was really cool, and to see the other projects kind of give me, some inspiration and hope within the industry.
So the project you enter, the project for you was Enter Zion.
hmm
So what is that?
Yes.
What is Enter Zion?
All right. So Enter Zion is a fictional version of Jamaica, right? It's a story about
Right.
people surviving on the island with different tribes, and the game is basically gonna be with you protecting a village, building up a village from invaders, and then when nighttime comes, you're gonna have some creatures coming out, and we're gonna base that off of Jamaican culture and lore, as
Right.
well as African lore, right? Yeah. See, You have it on screen. So if you
Yeah.
guys want to go on the website, you can go www.asweenterzion.com. From there,
Okay.
you can see what it's about, all those things. And on our Instagram, you can see our progress that we have so far. But yeah, it's gonna be like a 2D pixel art kind of game.
Hmm.
We want to work on creating, just adding more to the game, showing people more of the game itself, and show that there's big potential, not just in a video game license, but in a product itself, IP. Because
Yeah.
IP, intellectual property, is important, right?
Hmm.
People want to know, oh, you have a plan for merchandise, you have a plan for this, that. It shows that you're thinking about, targeting different audiences and ensuring that this is a profitable business,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
that's important. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So, Glenn, in terms of how you went about choosing, um, selecting the persons who are going to be in the showcase, what was that process?
Okay, so really and truthfully, when we first concepted the idea, we just kind of reached out to the immediate network of people who we knew were working on stuff. Those are the people who were like early
Mm-hmm.
selectors, all right? So we knew
Mm-hmm.
Chris and Corey, they were working on Enter Zion. We reached out to the Pennycook brothers who were working on Street Boy.
Street
We know
Boys.
that
Yeah.
we know that they were working on work already, as well as some of the other mods. They have their own projects that would have already gotten spotlighted in other showcases, but we
Mm-hmm.
included them all in. And I have my own project there as well. And then once we had the core set up, we had an open call, right? Our open call for just anybody of Caribbean descent. Submit your game, tell us a little bit more about you, and why we should include you in the showcase. I think we
Yeah.
got up to trying to remember if we got up to 12, 13 submissions. We got a lot of retweets, a lot of focus from the wider game development community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the mods met, we voted, and we restricted it down to a certain number of entrants, and that was it. It was a pretty straightforward process, really and truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I'm actually really, really proud of how it all came together.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the name of your game, Glenn?
Oh, my project is Duppy Detective Tasha. Um, it's
Where
supposed.
can we find that?
It's currently up on Steam. If you plug it in on Google, it should be the top entry. Um,
Right. All right. So
yeah.
let's. So you actually entered yourself.
Yes. We had to make sure that we had a core bit of content first, because again,
Right.
remember, one of the challenges that we were trying to overcome is people putting together content and showing it to people,
Right.
right? So we made sure that we had a certain bar of quality, people who we trusted, that they're serious about this, they've done this before, and they're showcasing work of a certain level of polish. And
Mm-hmm.
then we opened it up to the open wider diaspora, everybody else, to see, okay, how much additional content can we get and pull in. So yeah, that's it as it is. And
Yeah.
Duppy Detective Tasha itself is supposed to be a story-driven choice narrative game, focusing on like these reinterpretations of Caribbean folklore, like Rolling Calf, Brother and Nancy, that type of stuff.
Okay. So is this also a part of funding for, because a lot of these games are in the development stage, so are you
Mhm.
hoping that the win this project will help to attract investments? Because I know, for instance, like Street Boys, they're actively seeking investments to finish their project. I'm not sure if Corey is doing that as well, but are you hoping that this showcase then can help attract investments to these games?
Oh, definitely, definitely. So the idea again is this is all building on that legitimacy, that seriousness, that portfolio, right?
Mhm.
So you can approach other funding agencies and other publishers and say, "Hey, I'm working on this project. This project was featured in Windows Direct. It was part of this showcase. This was also included in Polygon." So that entire um, idea, that spiel, that way in which we can collaborate and build something that can be taken seriously, all of that is baked into this ethos behind the Windows Direct.
Awesome. So to wrap up, Glenn, what's next for the Jamaica Game Developer Society? What's next for Sprite Range? What's next for Windies?
Okay, in that order, JGDS. For the JGDS, we don't necessarily have anything like planned out for the rest of the year, but we're gearing up for the Global Game Jam for the end of January. That is something that we do every year. We host the Jamaica Jam site, or yeah, the Jamaica Jam site for the Jam, where we just invite people. Well, people can come together and make a game in 48 hours. It's over a weekend. And yeah, it's just a collaborative community kind of building event. We normally do it in joint with Carimac, so we get some kind of support there. And yeah, it's a good time overall. For Sprite Wrench, I'm working on my two projects. I have a smaller micro project, which is a puzzle narrative game that is kind of abstract to talk about. It's called On the Peril of Pirates. And also looking for funding and prototype funding for Duppy Detective Tasha itself. And for Windies, well, we're still looking over, the response and analyzing what went well, what didn't go well, and figuring out how we can go bigger and better next year.
Awesome. Corey, what's next for Enter Zion and for your studio in general?
Well, for InterZine, I would say just continuous work on the game itself, improving it, making sure that everything is up to standard, as well as working on the actual content for the marketing. Just developing the IP, making sure that it's packaged very well, and that when it goes out, it's of good quality, so that if we're going into an international market, for example, we have the portfolio there so that people can look on it and say, right, this I want, all right, I want to invest in this because this
Yeah,
look
yeah, yeah.
interesting, right? This look top tier, this look like Netflix, this I gotta go on, or I gotta play this on the PlayStation 5 next year, them kind of things. So it's important for us to have the game looking well and looking good and make it fun. Um, in terms of females animation studio, right now the main focus is to push our studio in terms of creating more portfolio for ourselves, making sure that we have a team ready and waiting to do those kind of things, developing the skills that we have and the talents that we have. Because right now, I still have my internship program going on right now, so working with some talent, and it's going well so far. So give thanks for that, and that's the three.
Right. So you're giving back because you're working with talents in an internship, you're working on your game and just the overall development of your studio, making sure that your portfolio is out there, you're visible, right?
Facts, yes.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Really, really appreciate having you guys on. I am a big supporter of, you guys on that, of what it is that you guys
Of course,
do,
of
of
course.
the Jamaican creative space and the digital and tech space in general. And I think you guys overlap all those spaces. So it's always amazing to talk to you guys. It's always amazing to see you guys out there representing really strong, because I saw the Polygon article. I was like, they're in and it was and it was such a well written and well considered article, because sometimes you appear in these major publications and it's just a little yeah, them are
Yeah,
do some things,
it's a
but it
side thing.
was a heavy article, like what if a paragraphs with people say things and I go, what, this is nice.
Mm.
So really, really, really proud of you, Glenn and Corey. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Yes, thank you for so much for having us. Always appreciate it. Isn't it? Your bubbly personality and thing. Much appreciated for having us here. Is it? Yeah.
All right, then. Thank you so
Always a
much.
pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And thanks. Let me tell you something, guys. Every time I ask Glenn to jump on, because Glenn for me is the authority on all things gaming in Jamaica. Every time I ask Glenn to jump on, he makes himself available. And so I really do appreciate Glenn for that. And thank you so much, Corey. Corey is one of the people that I consider to be a part of the Digital Jamaica community, and part of a crew of people that I think are doing amazing things and deserve a lot more recognition than I think they're getting, because they're amazing. Thank you guys so much. That's the end of our show this week. Thank you so much for staying with me. So earlier we talked to Nevine about accounting and some common accounting issues, taxes, what are deductibles, what are tax exemptions. We spoke about, she gave us some money management tips because as even though she's an accountant, she's also a financial. She also has experience and expertise in financial management and asset management. So she gave us some tips about that, and we had a great discussion. And we just wrapped up the conversation with Glenn Henry and Corey Mills about the Windows Direct project. So I really appreciate you guys staying with me. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast. Our podcast did the Digital Jamaica podcast did numbers this year, guys. I just got my Spotify wrapped, and we did numbers. We are in the top 15% of tech podcasts, and I'm like, really? Is it amazing? So we're gonna be posting those figures, the analytics from Spotify come next week. And starting Monday we open the nominations for the Digital Jamaica People to Watch 2023. It's, can you believe it's been 5 years since we've started publishing that list? And I know it means so much to so many persons, and so we're definitely going to continue that as long as we possibly can. But nominations open on Monday, so start identifying the people that you think deserve to be honorees for the amazing work that they're doing in digital across the 6 categories: business, creative arts, digital media. And I keep forgetting what my categories are, but you will see them. You will see them on Monday. And make sure that you go and you vote. Well, it's not really a vote, it's more like, it's not a vote, it's a nomination. You go and you nominate these persons. The information is going to be on the website as to how you can nominate persons, etc. So that's coming up on Monday. And this year, well, for the 2023 nominations, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're more excitement things. We want to have some sit down kind of things happening, so I'm definitely working on that. And yeah, we have a lot more things coming up in 2023, one of them being a conference, but you will hear more about that. Next week on the show, we are talking about, how should I put this? We're going to be talking about, it's a term I kind of coined called baby. Build a better, I can't even remember my own terminology. I tell you what it's called. It's called Build a Better You. But it's about branding and how you can, what are the things that you need to know to brand yourself in the digital space, so you become more visible, more relevant, and so you can start attracting opportunities for yourself. And these are the things I did. And by no means is this unique to me, but I've kind of documented the different things I did and kind of developed a framework. And so next week, we're going to be talking about the Build a Better You branding framework for persons who are interested in building a lucrative brand in the digital space, and kind of following some of the steps that I followed to make money online. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. And I promise the title is going to be a lot sexier. But yeah, guys, have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.